Hey, this is Jan, and I'm going to show you the full breakdown on how to recreate El Chapo by SKRILLEX. So let's dive right into it. Okay, let's start by playing the beat first. Oh yeah, and the track's already quite loud. I think it's like minus 6.4 LUFS. So I already got the track mastered and mixed down, mastering, all that stuff is pretty much done. Just for this 16 bar beat. I don't know if it's 16 bars. Yes, it's 16 bars. Okay, so let me show you the beat first, okay? And now the hi-hats. Okay, let's start with the brass. The brass ensemble is native instruments, session horns. I don't know. Yeah, session horns. We will get back to this later, but let me show you the tabs. Okay, so the notes will be it's pretty basic. It's G sharp and A, and then it's D sharp, and it's basically the same another octave, so it's stacked, and then it's D sharp, E, and F sharp. So okay, you can see here I was at the beginning when I was listening to the track, because I do everything by ear. Just by listening, for me it's the fastest way and the most effective way to get to realize what's going on. I had the root notes stacked as well, but this sounds quite wrong in my opinion. Let me activate the root note. So we basically have the root note stacked with an octave higher, and you have D sharp stacked with an octave higher, but it doesn't really sound right. So the original is doesn't have this. You can listen. You can hear if you let me put this on 0 again. If you listen closely to the original track, you realize this is the right stuff. These are the right tabs now. Okay, then let's get into the contact brass ensemble. For the brass ensemble, I'm using the session horns, single articulation, which is pretty much, I mean, you can switch around, play around, but in my case, to get as close as possible, I found out to be TP1, TS, TP2 the best, and then the articulation is marcato, which is similar, almost similar to like staccato style, just like, you know, short attack, like a shorter decay, shorter sustain, more like yeah, get this punchy, this short chords. Okay, then octave is drop off, there's no drop, and then yeah, velocity is linear velocity, and yeah, for the sound effects, sax and brass 2, mid saturation for the master effects, detune like almost like 50%, and the stereo when you listen to El Chapo, it's pretty mono in my opinion. So I realized it's pretty mono. I think it's also sampled from like another track, maybe like an older track. I don't know. It's just my guess. But stereo is pretty much to the left. Okay, so it's more mono than like a wider stereo feel. Reverb, I found out to be plate brass was the best option. Again, you can switch around and play around. there are like different styles you can, of course, you can try out. Then I have an auto filter. It's just like a high pass. I made a cut around like 200 hertz, so just to make sure that we have no low frequency action going on the brass ensemble. Overdrive, which is from the mid range to the higher frequency spectrum, and like 34% dry wetness, like 34% wet, and the dynamics will be like 24%, like less dynamics, just sound better in my opinion, and not so distorted. And the overdrive, the overall distortion is more subtle and warmer, if you want to call it that way. Then I have a transient shaper. What the transient shaper does is basically you can lower or increase. You can decrease or increase the attack and the sustain. The attack is basically if you want to have really aggressive, high energy kick, high energy snare, like just the first milliseconds of these high frequency, where a lot of energy, a lot of attack is going on. You increase the attack just to beef it up, to get this punch. And also the sustain within the transient shaper is basically, if you decrease this, you have like a shorter sound, less sustain, which will also support these heavy punchy kicks and snares. And I pretty much did the opposite for the brass ensemble. I decreased the attack and I increased the sustain. Let me show you what I mean if I turn this off and play the brass again. You really can hear this small change, but it's psychological, because if you decrease the attack, it has more this like this filtered feeling, like you have in the original track. If you decrease the attack, it's softer. It goes in and it opens up. Okay, and the sustain, increasing the sustain just to make the sound in the end. Like the decay and sustain within the sound more like longer, if you want to call it that way. Just make this sound like a little softer and a little more like groovy and shit and all that stuff, because like in the original, it's pretty much the same. Then I have nothing special right here. It's just basic compression. There's not really much going on in the low end, of course, so I was focusing on the mid and high frequency range, and have a settle, like a slight compression. Yes, it's just to get this pump, this every time the chords are hitting here, you support this pump feeling, and this is basically the compression I was using for this effect. Then I have a shaper box. You don't need to use a shaper box. You can use different plugins. This is basically just volume automation. Yes, you can see here it's basically just like I'm imitating the attack. Like having a slow attack, like the sound or like the input is muted, and then it goes to 100%, and then it goes down in the end, just a little bit. Okay, so it's not so artificial. It has more this feeling like it's getting filtered. Okay, and reverb, high quality decay, like 2 seconds, and 30% wet, just to get more atmosphere, beef the sound up a little bit, and make it more awesome. Then, as for the trumpets, I have a Serum synthesizer, which is playing basically the same stuff. But let me just play the brass ensemble to show you what I mean by this. And now the synth, the Serum, in addition. Yeah, if you listen to the original, I think it's also stacked. The brass ensemble is stacked with the synth, the synthesizer. Some basic unison chords. So you have unison. I used 16 unison. Why not? Detune like about 50%. If you want to really beef it up, you can also right-click mod source and then use the chaos. To really make this fucking brutal, but in my opinion, I don't need it. If you're using the chaos, obviously it's too much because I have already some automation right here. So, but I think in my opinion, you really don't need the chaos. So let me just deactivate this. Right here. Okay. As you can see right here, I have an LFO which is linked to the level and which is linked to noise. I realize the noise is muted. Why is the noise muted? I just realized that the noise was deactivated. I don't know why, but make sure you have some noise. In my case, it's bright white, pitched up, and just have this on top, you know. And yeah, you can also use this LFO shape, of course, for like, a filter, maybe like a high pass filter or something like that. If you want to. Basic stereo with the hyperdimension, distortion. I got some X-shaper distortion right here with edit A and edit B is something like this. And yeah, multiband compression, just to make sure that the low end is compressed and the mid and the highs have slightly less compression. Reverb, if you want to, I think it's crucial in my opinion, and yeah, a low pass filter. Yeah, just a low pass filter so in my opinion the stuff within Serum was too bright, too much high frequency stuff going on. So I was using a filter when I was almost done with the preset. So it's pretty basic stuff, but it's just a good addition for the brass ensemble, and it mimics the original beat. Okay, so now the next step will be the sub, so pretty much the kick. I was grouping the kick because I have the sub kick, and I have this punchy kick, just to have this attack at the beginning. So let me start just by playing the sub kick. In the original track, he's using an 808. It's just a simple, plain, overused 808 kick. So nothing fancy. You can get it from Splice. It's already in like hundreds of thousands of packs. It's basic stuff. But funny enough, I don't have an 808 kick, so I was just using a simple serum preset, like a sine wave, a little bit of attack, like 88 milliseconds, and then I just go down, so it mimics the sub. This is why I'm not using the sub. I'm using an oscillator and pitched it down to octaves, and then having this kind of envelope shape. Okay, so let me show you. And I was also using some distortion, compression. In the end, it's about taste. If you want like a little bit of like a bit crushing effect or this distortion effect on the kick, if you want to, or if you want to have it really clean, it's up to you. But for the original track, they are using some distortion. And then I have a punchy kick. The kick drum is just, I was just dragging in like a basic EDM kick drum and using this kind of equalizer, a low cut and a really big high cut, which is also cutting out the mid frequencies, and it will sound like this. I'm also cutting out the low frequency because it will be in conflict with the sub. Okay, so yeah, the sub and the punchy kick together will sound like this. Yeah, so make sure that you have that the sounds, the frequencies will not be in conflict. So I was really decreasing everything around this area here, so the sub has a lot of room later on. I'm using two different subs because the first kick is longer and the second kick, of course, is shorter. So I was just changing the LFO shape. As you can see right here, for the first kick is the LFO shape is something like the envelope shape is something like this. I will always get these two mixed up. And the second one is shorter, as you can see. So just to get the right timing when the volume decreases for the sub. It should not be flat, like always the same volume for the sub, because the sub should reduce in volume or reduce in energy until it kicks again. So I was basically making my own 808, and yes. Okay, so let's listen to the brass ensemble and the kick and like the sub together. Okay, and then let's add the snare. Okay, for the snare, I realized he's using at least 2 or 3 different snares. It's like a punchy snare, which is like the low and mid frequency range. I was using addictive drums, this one. It's like really short attack and short decay, really like get this punch. And then, yeah, added in compression, like really heavy compression. Yeah, heavy compression, a slower release, just to get the timing right within this track, and to get this pump feeling for the punchy snare. In my opinion, it's always the best choice if you want to if you want to have a really tight and punchy kick and snare, you really have to use a lot of compression, a higher ratio, lowering the threshold even more, and have adjusting the release according to your tempo, of course, or until the snare or kick will hit again, so that the release will be at 0 again. And the clap, I realized he was using a simple clap. I think it's, yeah, this is a clap 909. Simple reverb, put a reverb on this clap 909. Some EQ action here going on, like high pass and low pass, basically. I was using an Ableton shifter just to get this wide, was just activating wide and having a little bit of spread just to make it a little more stereo-ish. And then I realized he was using an 808 snare. I got this 808 snare from Splice today because I realized I don't have this. I didn't have this exact 808 snare, and the 808 snares by Ableton are not really doing the job. So I got this from Splice today, and together it will sound like this. Then just group these snares and have a low cut, a cut around this heavy area with the snares. Basically has a lot of energy here, and just to get some more space, some more room, and not getting to avoid clipping. Compression, not heavy compression, but like settle compression, medium compression. And then I have a saturator, and soft clip and medium curve just to boost the sound a little bit and make sure that the sound is not clipping, or like the snare, the overall snare sample is not clipping. And yeah, then let's introduce the hi-hats. The hi-hats are pretty simple. It's this trap stuff, like I said, always the same stuff. He's starting with 8 notes, then you have 16 triplets, I think. No, it's 32 triplets, because the tempo, I forgot to mention, the tempo is 128. So in my case, it's 32, and then you have triplets, and then he's changing back to 8 notes, and then again triplets, 32 notes and triplets. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you have a full bar, and you repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And then it will sound like this. I was also trying to match to match the frequency range and the pitch according to the original. And I had to use, I'm using Addictive Drums, and using a 15-inch Silgen New Beat hi-hat. I was boosting the overhead, a little bit of room level, and this is really important, the volume envelope and the pitch. Yeah, of course, get the right frequency range according to the original track. And as for the envelope, I was just removing some attack here, just to get this warmer sound, not these like staccato, these harsh sound, but like a softer sound, like the heads getting introduced every time they hit. Which will sound something like this. Because if you leave it on default, it will sound silly, in my opinion. This clicky sound is not in the original. Yeah. And yeah, this is my hi-hat basically. Nothing fancy, nothing special. As you can see, no compression, no EQ. I was just using a low cut and mid cut within the VST. Yes, and I don't need reverb or something like this. Maybe if you are using a sample, of course, you should use an equalizer and some reverb, because in my opinion, or in my case, within this VST, within Addictive Drums, you already get some room and overhead, and it already has reverb, a high quality reverb in my case. And then SKRILLEX is using an FM, a simple sine wave FM in this beat. Let me show you. Yeah. How did I make this? It's not 100% perfect, of course, but I was messing around, like, I don't know, maybe like 1 hour, 90 minutes. Yeah, I think like at least 1 hour I was messing around. But when I was listening to El CHAPO, I realized this is definitely frequency modulation with sine waves and some filter stuff going on. So basic shape, sine wave, as you can see right here, and this LFO shape here is pretty much doing a lot of stuff. The most important thing is that if you mute, one oscillator is muted, and or in my case like 80% muted, you can mute it 100%, and then the second LFO, not the second LFO, the second oscillator, sorry, the second oscillator, you have FM, an FM from A, or vice versa. If you're using, you can also use the FM from B right here and mute the second oscillator, but the other way around, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. And then the frequency modulation, it's really, really, really important, because 90% of the sound is within this knob here, and you need to find the right spot. You really need to find the right frequency range. And my tip, if you don't know, holding shift and drag up or down, then you can make slight adjustments. And yeah, this LFO shape is pretty much on the volume. I was using a sync here with this LFO and an all-pass filter, boosting the resonance when it goes up, when the LFO is at 100%, boosting the resonance, the drive, some damping over here, the cutoff is around here. No sub, of course, because we have the sub, as you can see, the sub is with the 808 kick, or in my case, my 808 kick imitation, which I did for Serum. And yeah, let me reopen this. And yeah, a lot of stuff is going on here. I have an HB12 filter, also automating with this LFO, cutoff, resonance, drive. Notice the drive and the resonance is here the other way around. So when the LFO goes up, the drive and the resonance is going down. I realized it makes sense in my case, because the sound is really fast. So you really want to have right at the beginning, you want to have like a drive and the boosted resonance, just to get this like fast staccato like FM sound, the sine wave FM sound. Reverb, pretty important. You can hear the reverb in the original track, of course. I was also using another increase here, increasing the reverb when once it triggers, increasing the reverb at the end. Multiband compression, make sure that you have low, mid and high balanced out. So You want, of course, in this case it's FM. You want more high frequencies, and adjusting the mid frequencies until it sounds about right. Yes, distortion. I really like the CHAPO, always boosting this line, like or dragging the line up or dragging the line down. You can mess around with the edits, and then I'm using the pre button, and adjusting this frequency range here. Having the drive at right about 50 to 60%, but again, you can see all the settings. You can mimic all this stuff if you want to, and you will have pretty much the sound. As for the octaves and the semitones, really important. In my case, the muted oscillator is +2, and the second oscillator, the FM oscillator, which gets which is linked to this LFO here, is -1 octave, and both are +5 semitones. +5 semitones because I realized that he is playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's playing B, but it depends on the FM frequency modulation and notations, frequency modulation and hitting the right key or having the right key is always tricky. So it depends on. It depends pretty much on this FM knob. So the sound will sometimes the sound will completely change. The key will completely change. But this is basically the sound SKRILLEX is using. And you really can hear like the reverb as the reverb gets more intense in the end, and I have a really long decay, quite like 50 to 60% decay. Using a Hall, the Hall mode instead of plate. I love the plate. I really love the plate version of this reverb here, or like the plate mode. But as for the original track, you will hit the sound, or you get to the sound with Hall, with the Hall reverb, in my opinion. Okay, so yeah, let's play the beat again. And if you have any questions regarding sound design, just hit me up. And this is CHAPO.